Before I leave this segment, I know a lot of y'all are out here thinking, Bruce, you got on your soapbox and you're talking about, other people in the platforms and, what about you? I try to maintain a responsibility every time I hit record and turn on these cameras and these mics to give y'all the raw real. I'm giving you my perspective. I'm giving you my perspective. And my perspective is not always right. I'm somebody who can acknowledge when they are wrong. That's also very, very important in an evolution of a person, is to admit when you're wrong, acknowledge when you're wrong, acknowledge the fact that you don't know everything and you're not always right, and to listen to other people, whether you agree or disagree, whether you want to hear what they got to say or not, because there's always something that you can learn from somebody else, from the mere fact that you acknowledge that you're not always right and that you can be wrong. And because I give my perspective on the show, I have people out there that are constantly, they're going to question some of the things that I say. And I listen to them and I say, well, this person has a little merit to what they said. And then I need to reevaluate that, or they don't. Right. But I acknowledge the fact that I'm not always right. But back to how important it is to maintain responsibility when you are turning on the cameras and the microphone, not just me, because I'm just a small fish, very, very small, very, very small. I'm talking to bigger figures here. And how can their narratives affect society? Because you might be thinking I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm not. Let me give you an example. The big lie, right? The big lie. There are people out there that still honestly believe that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. Think about that. And I know there's going to be people that are going to respond back to this and say it was stolen, despite the fact that there's been numerous lawsuits that failed, despite the fact that there has been no evidence whatsoever. We're here 4 years later about to enter into another election, and there are people out there legitimately believing that the election was stolen. And there were networks that were sued. They were sued, pushing the big lie, feeding into that. Now think about why they were feeding into that. Ratings. People were watching. It was salacious. And this is going back to that, what I was talking about earlier, falling a victim to the addiction of followers, subscribers, ratings, fans. That it may lead you to do things and say things that maybe you don't necessarily believe. Or maybe you can start to convince yourself that you do believe it because you know the power of that belief. So you say, Bruce, that was the president. And that was news networks. What about some of these other podcasters and interviewers and personalities that are pushing around false health narratives? You have people out there that are trying to restrict vaccines for kids to go to school. And you're having things like the measles outbreak happening. Things that we got rid of, polio, things that we got rid of 100 years ago. Because of these vaccines, people are like, no, I don't believe in the science. You don't believe in the science after 100 years? And are there times where something bad happens? Yeah. There are times where something bad happens with these vaccines. You're right. Just to ask you guys a question. Do y'all know how many car accidents there are a year? Do you know how many fatal car accidents there are in a year? I don't have the numbers, but I'm just asking you. Do you know? Do you know how many plane crashes there are? How many boat accidents there are? How many bicycle or motorcycle accidents there are? How many times are people hit crosswalking, walking across the street, walking in their neighborhood? These things happen. So because these things happen, are you no longer going to drive a car, fly in a plane, ride in a boat, ride your bicycle, go for a walk anywhere, do anything? That makes no sense. Because the likelihood of these bad things happening are not that high when you look at the totality of how many times that you actually do it. So anytime there's a negative effect to a vaccine, it happens for a variety of reasons, the health reasons that the layman, the normal person wouldn't possibly understand because y'all could barely freaking pass high school chemistry and biology. But all of a sudden, you Google a couple of things and now you have this degree in epidemiology. Okay, right? There's also conspiracy theorists that are podcast hosts and interviewees on podcasts because I started talking about the responsibility of podcasters. And then I broadened it out to a larger responsibility of politicians, people by and large in general. But going back to podcasters and interviewees, there's people that are putting out crazy, crazy theories on climate change denial, 5G technology, alien encounter, chemtrails, all these type of stuff. And don't get me wrong, some of these conspiracy theories can be true, are kind of true, right? But not as true often as what these people say that it is. And like it's very rare that these conspiracy theories, it's like extremely rare. If there are 100 conspiracy theories, maybe 2 are correct, maybe 2 are right. Maybe 2 have a kernel of truth. But most of them don't. If you like that clip, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to catch up on all of our latest content. Don't forget to hit the notification button when you do subscribe so you can get updated every time we release content. We release content every day, whether it's an actual show or clips from the shows. So go ahead and subscribe, like, comment. Also, don't forget our Patreon page where you can find our Talking Straight-ish and After Hours Uncensored episodes. That's patreon.com/unsolicited perspectives. But once again, thank you again for listening to Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, and I'm going to catch you next time. I'll holla.